you want to come and see the measures we've got in place, I think they're more robust than certain other areas. I know supermarkets have been in the press today, and in my experience of supermarkets, they're not a great blooming place at all to go, and from a social distancing perspective. So I think we've done it really well, and I wouldn't say that it's just everyone active. I think as an industry, we have an industry body, UK Active, that have given us very clear guidance on how we should manage. And we've only had a handful, I think, within the company recently that have caught COVID. Having said that, my anecdotal experience at the minute is in the last 2 weeks, I know quite a few family, friends and people suddenly in the northeast that have suddenly either had to self-isolate or got it. So it seems to have moved into the community, and I wouldn't want to say that no staff are going to have it when we return to work. But it's difficult, but I think we manage it well. Yeah.
Similar to you, all summer long, I haven't known of anybody that's known anybody even that's suffered, and now know of 3. So yeah, it's a different ball game we're in at the moment, I think. But I'm not going to take you up on your offer just yet, because at my age, I'm told I'm too old and I should be taking care of myself and not going anywhere and doing anything. Thank you very much. And it suits me just fine at the present time. So thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution this evening. I think we need to go to a vote now to accept this document from you.
Chair, can I just say, I'm not sure if Philip wants to summarise the report in any way.
A summary is?
Yeah, just very, very quickly, Chair, if I can.
Yeah, sorry, Philip, I should have come back to you.
Yeah, no problem at all, Chair. I've got very little to say, in all honesty. I think the first thing to say is thank you to Martin and John for the presentation this evening. Very, very informative. Very well received by members, so thank you, gents, for coming along to do that. I think the bigger vote of thanks I'd like to give, though, Chair, is to Martin and John and everyone active and their colleagues for all the work they've done historically, certainly over the last year, but certainly over the period of the last 6 or 7 months, which we've all found incredibly difficult. So I think Martin and John have obviously outlined, hopefully in very, very positive terms, their annual performance in 1920, but clearly we're facing very challenging times now, and everything going forward has to be seen through the lens of COVID and making sure we can address those challenges and keep facilities going forward. So if I can, thank them both for their presentation tonight. More importantly, thank them for all their work, and hopefully we can find a way forward in the not too distant future.
Thank you for that, Philip. In that case, can we go to vote? I propose that we accept this report from everyone active. Have I got a seconder, please?
I'll second it, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
We'll go through the roll, if you
So
please.
if you could indicate for, against or abstention. Councillor Brackstone?
For.
Councillor Cousins?
For.
Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor King?
For.
Councillor Middleton?
For.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Councillor Rain?
Abstain.
Councillor Raper?
For.
Councillor Wass?
For.
That's 8 votes for, Chair, and 1 abstention.
Thank you. We've accepted it. Next on the agenda, item 7, progress report on the implementation of the Climate Change Action Plan and associated projects, pages 49 to 54. Who have we got to kick off on this one? I've got
Just myself, if I can, first of all, Chair, and then I'll pass over to John Law. But just very, very briefly, we do bring regular progress reports into overview and scrutiny on the Climate Change Action Plan and associated activity. This is the next in the series of those updates and presentations. Slightly different tonight, though, in that we've taken the opportunity to introduce our new climate change officer to you, John Law. And in a second, John will actually go through the paper and pick out some key elements within it. Basically, the purpose of the report, Chair, is to give committee an overview and update on key activity and progress in the last 6 or 12 months. And I think in many ways, more importantly, to spell out the key actions in the 12 months going forward. I think what I'd say is there's been a heck of a lot of work done to build the foundations of the approach, to put the policies and procedures in place. What this is about now is about getting real activity moving on the ground. I think we've got a lot of progress to be demonstrated, but I think more importantly, I'm very excited personally about what's going to happen in the next 12 months, because I think we're going to see lots of significant progress on the ground. So probably that's all I want to say from my perspective as an overview, Chair. So if I can pass over to John Law to actually walk you through the paper.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name's John Law. I'm the Climate Change and Environmental Projects Officer, and very pleased to be here this evening. Thank you, Philip, for the introduction. The purpose really tonight is to just give you a summary and an overview of the work that's been done up until I joined at the beginning of September, and then look at some of the plans we have for the following 12 months. So in the body of the report, I've split that into two main sections really. In section 6, section 6.3 really gives a summary of the progress that was made between March and October this year, so prior to me my appointment. And I just pull out one or two highlights from that, if I may. Don't want to blow my trumpet, but my own trumpet, but actually appointing a climate change and environmental projects officer is a very positive step in that in this programme, and you do now have a dedicated person to take this agenda forward. I kicked off that work early on by getting to know the various community groups that make up Ryedale Environment Group, and help them put together the Ryedale Environment Week at the end of October, which I think was very successful. That had to move to an online event, which was a shame in many ways, because I think they had plans for a fair and lots of activity. But the reports back were that all the presentations and talks that were given were very well attended. One of the things that's come to my attention early on in the time I've been at Ryedale is we had the opportunity potentially to gain some quite significant funding through the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, but actually when it came down to it, we didn't really have a suitable charitable organisation in the district to exploit that. I did do some work looking at existing charities and made some good links now with Groundwork and the Trust for Conservation Volunteers, for example, who are both making substantial applications to this grant challenge fund. And I do hope that over the coming 12 months or so, we're going to be able to sort of work with them to deliver some projects with that funding behind it. One or two other things to just draw attention to. Before I joined, some work was commissioned from the Energy Saving Trust to look at the grey fleet that the District Council operates. And we've got the reports back now from Energy Saving Trust, and have the necessary information to put together a low carbon staff travel plan and make recommendations to how we may replace some of the grey fleet in the council, and are looking next year to trial and operate some electric vehicles from the depot. Connected to that, we have done some work now and implemented some rapid EV charging points installations. Those have gone in the car parks thus far, but we are into the next stage now where we're looking to put additional charging points at Ryedale House and at the depot and at the it's at the building control offices in Easingwold. I'll just go into the second section of this part of the report, which is really the new activity in section 6.4. Again, I've listed out some of the new activity that we wish to take forward, and then further down in that section, there's a table which itemises the main new areas of activity and how we're going to take them forward over the next 3, 6 or 12-month period. And our focus is really on, a number of things, but one of the key things is to look at the head office and the depot and our other building assets and look where we can employ energy efficiency technologies and look for renewable energy installation and low carbon technologies. We will continue with the LED streetlight replacement program, which is underway now, and look to complete that in the next 12 months. I hope that we can get the low carbon staff travel plan in place, but obviously that's all a little bit COVID dependent because everybody is working from home at the moment. We have made some good progress with the Malton to Pickering cycle route. That's another project, and that should be fully completed and constructed by the end of next year. I mentioned already further electric charging points, and I think taking our lead from the pronouncements by the government over the last couple of days, then this is going to be a very important area for us to extend even further. If there is a genuine desire to replace all new diesel and petrol cars by 2030, then the charging infrastructure is going to be crucial, and I think local authorities are going to have a very important role to play in that. We are supporting and working closely with the York and North Yorkshire LEP on various projects, including the Circular Malton project. And within that, there is a very interesting early stage project to look at the feasibility of a anaerobic digester biogas plant in and around somewhere around Malton and Norton. And quite a bit of work is being undertaken to look at the practicalities and the feasibility of that at the moment, and we're supporting and involved in that. And I think I'll just mention a couple of other things. We are putting an application in the next few days, hopefully, to the heat delivery network. The Heat Network Delivery Unit at Bays to investigate a geothermal heat project across the district. And this is in collaboration with Third Energy and the LEP. And the project will employ some consultants to really look at the opportunities and the feasibility of renewable heat using geothermal heat in our district. And that's a project that will run through early part of next year. And another area I think I just wanted to mention, a lot of the emphasis of the work that we're going to be doing is on reducing emissions, reducing our energy use, becoming more energy efficient. But we also need to look at the carbon sequestration side, the other end of the equation of working towards net zero carbon. So I'm wanting to look at how we can be involved in supporting and promoting increased tree planting and woodland creation, and also peat restoration, because these are the two very significant carbon sequestration opportunities that we have within the district. So I hope that gives a bit of a whistle-stop tour through what we plan to do. The detail is in the paper there, and I'd be happy to take questions.
Chair Councillor King would like to speak.
Good evening, John, and welcome to Ryedale District Council.
Thank you.
My first question would be, an EV charging unit, how much do they actually cost per unit?
Oh, that's a question. I haven't got that figure on the top of my head, I'm afraid. I can certainly get that. We know it in some detail now because we're onto the second procurement exercise. It's actually a colleague of mine, Craig Natras, is doing that work, but I will get that figure across to you.
Okay, thank you. Another one with the future. This may be obviously before your time. With the future of Ryedale House uncertain, you've actually put secondary glazing was installed on the first floor in April 20. Why, with the future of Ryedale House being so uncertain, why was it in such a state that it had to be undertaken at that time?
I can only really answer that anecdotally, but I believe that bit of installation work was done in the Economic Development Office because it had been particularly uncomfortable in there and cold through the previous winter. Yes, but officers are not using that area at the moment, so I don't know. I mean, yes, it was before my time, and Philip perhaps wants to say a bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. In many ways, just to kind of reiterate what the point that's been made by John there. Basically, the quality of the environment within the first floor was not suitable for working in there. The wind was basically whistling through the windows. It was not an appropriate, suitable, or indeed health and safe working environment. So hence the fact that the secondary glazing was installed. But I can actually confirm it was secondary glazing that was taken from a different part of the building, which was less used, to actually be installed on the first floor in the economic development area. So we're looking to actually keep the team safe and well, but minimising costs in doing so.
Thank you. Chair, may I come back again? Chair, may I come back again, please?
Sorry, it was on mute and it wouldn't turn off. Yes, please continue.
Okay, interesting to hear that you're going with LED streetlights. Are NYCC also following suit?
Yes.
Yes, I believe they are. There's a council-wide programme to replace with LED. Okay. I mean, replacing with LED is just sound from an economic point of view as much as anything.
Standard.
There's a good energy savings associated with it.
Okay, thank. And the last question for you, to work with newly appointed waste and recycling officer. Could I have that name, please?
Yes, that's Jane Robinson, who has been, I understand, been with the council a long time and is very familiar with work in the waste and environment team. So that's really good, and we have a dedicated person there now. And I've had several very good meetings with her already, looking at plans for the future.
Okay, John, thank you very much.
Just as an aside, if you're still hearing me, that most of the parishes are now changing to LED lights because it's cheaper for them to run them than the old style bulbs. So that seems to be something that is widespread, and it also as a result of talking with county council on street lighting. Thank you. I've got Councillor Oxley. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Observations and then a couple of questions, if I can. Firstly, this is probably the most uplifting report I've seen in my 6 years at Ryedale District Council. I'm massively encouraged and congratulate the whole team who've been involved in putting this together. This came out of ONS in the last council meeting, and it's fantastic to see the progress that has been made, particularly since we've had John on board. If I can just pick up, John, on what Philip said in the beginning, I think now, fantastic template. Now we need to start and put some practicalities and some more detail onto this. So a couple of specific questions, if I can. On Circular Molten, is there any sort of timescale on when we might see some more information on that?
Yes. Sadly, I would have had much more direct progress to report if it had gone according to plan, but we had to cancel, postpone, I should say, the workshops that the Circular Molten project were going to run for businesses. Yeah, it coincided with the second lockdown, and I think the right decision was made to delay those, and they are planned at the moment for February next year. And I think we already had, some real interest from companies to take part in those workshops. So that has been delayed somewhat, but I think everyone will understand why that was necessary. The anaerobic digester project is ongoing, and I can't give you any specific information about when sort of detailed reports will be out, but there's continuing work going on that project, and I think we will be bringing something towards the committee in the early part of next year, I would think.
Fine. Secondly, if I may, on the registered environmental charity,
yeah,
you mentioned a couple. That's about allowing us to access funding streams. What sort of size of funding streams are we talking about?
Well, the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, which was the thing that sparked it off for me, it was very substantial. I mean, we potentially could have had hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of funding towards projects. Those two that I mentioned are involved in both national and regional project proposals, and because the timescale for application was very short, we just weren't in a position to do anything ourselves. But I have had some good conversations with the Ryedale Environment Group and the community groups that sit underneath Reg, and I think they were in agreement with me that we should look to create a charity that we can exploit further funding for.
Yeah, thanks. It just helps to sharpen our thinking if we know that we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds here. We're not talking about 100 quid there.
No, this was substantial funding, which could have gone to a number of different projects across the district. So that's how I see the charity working. If we do create it, it's something that can apply for this funding and then distribute it to projects across the district.
Great, thank you. And finally, the third question, if I can, delighted to see on here terms like short term, medium term, and long term in months timescales that I understand. Short term is 3 months, not 3 years. I'm sure this committee will look forward to getting updates on this. But I do want to stress to you, I'm sure we'll be holding you to account in terms of trying to meet some of those, because it really is the time to see some action.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's fantastic what you've done so far. I think we're in a great place to go forward, but particularly with things like what we do with our own assets and how we relate to planning to get things to change. I think they are things that we'll be chasing you fairly hard on. But thank you very much.
Noted.
Encouraged.
Thank you, John. Councillor Wass, you've got your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, John, for your report, and welcome to the council.
Thank you.
A lot of great information in here, and obviously I don't want to echo what everybody else has said, because it seems so positive, which is good to see. What kind of information are you hoping to get out to the public? Because I think one of the key things that we've got to do is to inform people. I think a lot of what can be done is done on hearsay very, very often, and it's the wrong hearsay, because by the time Chinese whispers get down the line, it's a different ball game. But what have you in mind in terms of the availability of, say, grants, as Councillor Oxley was going on about there, and basically to implement what you're doing and how you're going to measure this?
Yeah, in terms of getting information out, I've intentionally not sort of jumped into that too quickly, because I wanted to sort of gauge what the best route for that would be. I have had some discussion with the Ryedale Environment Group about utilising their vehicle as a mouthpiece, so probably through some regular reports or a sort of blog or something on there, as well as information on the District Council's own website. I think I'm going to probably develop something like that, a blog or a regular newsletter, which other parts of the economic development team do very well, the business newsletter, for example, and make sure that regular information flow is passed on. Just on the thing about measuring, it is included in there, but I didn't mention it in the presentation. But we are working with, thankfully, Joss Holmes, who's now over at the LEP, and she has using Ryedale District Council data for the first sort of benchmarking exercise for a local authority, and then we will use that as a model to replicate across all the other districts in the county. So that should give us our good initial benchmark, and then we'll be able to measure performance against that in subsequent years. So that is an exercise that's ongoing as well at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a few other questions, but I think I'll let you actually get into post and see how you do before I ask those. But thanks for your time. Thank you.
Very happy to hear from you directly if you'd like to.
Thank you, both of you. Any other member wanting to ask John any questions? I've got one, if nobody else is coming in quickly, and it's a curiosity question more than anything major. It's about the restoration of peat, or the creation of peat and restoration of projects in the district. Where are the peat areas that you think you're going to go and look at? And have you had any contact yet with the National Parks Authority?
Absolutely, yeah. I had a very good meeting with the National Park Conservation Officer who deals with this. Yes, there are some critical areas right at the north end, obviously, of our district, which stretch up onto the moors. And there are a number of projects that are underway to restore and improve the health of the deep peat there. I don't see this as a major thrust for us, but I think there may well be some opportunities for us to get involved and support and maybe help with funding into that sort of work. And it's important to recognise that peat, healthy peat, is a very, very significant sink for carbon. And if there are areas within the district that are in poor condition, then that is a very positive project that we can take forward with the national park. And I believe, and I'm just doing a bit of investigation into this, but I believe we do have some very rare lowland bog as well in parts of the district. So that again, may be something that we can support the improvement in the health of those areas.
It's always good for habitat as well, for wildlife.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other members want to make any comment or contribution at this time? Otherwise, I think we can vote to accept this report, and I so propose. I'm looking for a seconder.
Happy to second that, John.
Thank you, Councillor Oxley. Can we put that to the vote on the roll, please?
We can indeed, Chair. So if you can indicate for, against or abstention. Councillor Braxton?
For.
Councillor Cousins?
Microphone.
Councillor Cousins? Was that for, Councillor Cousins?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor King?
For. Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Middleton?
For.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Councillor Rain?
For, thank you.
Councillor Raper?
Again, for, and thank you for an excellent report.
Councillor Wass?
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We've accepted that report, and thank you, John. Power to your elbow.
Thank you very much.
Hope it goes as well next time. Thank you. We move on to item 8 on our agenda. Start on page 55, Treasury Management Mid-Year Review. And I'm looking for Anton if he's there somewhere.
Yes, I am. Chair.
This?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Well, I can.
Okay, thank you. So this is the Treasury Management mid-year report. Last month, the committee looked at the outturn report for the previous financial year, and today we're giving the position sort of halfway through the current financial year. Headlines are Treasury Management remains strong and secure, but like everything else, COVID is having an impact. And it does mean that the interest return that we will receive this year, we estimate that will be down. That will be down by about 40,000 this year. And we've highlighted that as a cost of COVID, and we've put it on the tracker that we submit to central government once a month. So that's happening. It's largely due to, you may recall, the 2 interest rate cuts that we had within weeks of each other back in March. So that's the main message, really. It is what it is, and the report is asking members to note that. There is one other recommendation that we are seeking a view on, and that is around the limit of the amount that we invest with any other local authority. Now, that limit used to be £2 million for each local authority. A couple of years ago, 18 months or so ago, when we started reviewing Treasury management, we did reduce that down to £1 million. But we're now in a position to be able to put that back up to £2 million. That will have the benefit of being able to attract a bit more interest, probably. And because it's with other local authorities, it still is secure. So we'd like to do that for the next round of of our Treasury management strategy. But other than that, it's a factual report, just keeping you updated. The main message: our income's going to be a little bit down, and that's down to COVID. Okay, thank you. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Has any member got a question for Anton? Oh, don't let him off this freely, please.
That's the highlight of your evening.
I think it's an extremely good report, seen under the circumstances. I'll put it in brackets. We acknowledge that this year had been an exceptionally difficult one and a very different one. Just after, as an aside, that the vaccines were announced, I did a bank transfer from my British account to my French one, and the exchange rate was extremely good because it was carrying on the day after on the back of it, and I made 80 quid profit, literally, just by the timing of that transaction. It was 8 quid the last time I did it. It didn't even cover my charges from the bank for doing it, and the last one. But this time I had an 8 and I had a 0 behind it. It was stupendously good for me, in a sense, but it just shows you how volatile sometimes the markets are. And this is where when we have money at surplus to our requirements and for every day, we put money to actually try and earn interest for the benefit of our residents. And it's just a shame that we couldn't have done that, the whole sum that we had available to us at that time to do. But then we'd have had to transfer it back into pound again the following day and probably made a loss. But there you go. So can we vote? Councillor Walsh, did you want to say something? You went down with your hand.
No, sorry, just
accidentally got miscarried away by my drawing on. Thank you.
Chair, Councillor King would like to speak.
Councillor King, yes, thank you.
Anton, could you just explain to me why we have investment income, we've also got borrowing. Why don't we move some of that investment across to overcome this borrowing issue?
Yeah, I mean, one sort of offsets the other. So actually, a small advantage of the current situation is that our borrowing, our debt charges have reduced slightly by 2,000, I think is in the report. We have historic debt agreements that we can't change, and that's essentially it. But one does offset the other.
Are there rules governing that you can't use it for any other purpose?
Sorry, say again?
Are there rules governing how we can use that funding? And would that suggestion contravene any of the rules?
It's not so much that it's where we do have historic debt agreements. Often we can't change those, so we just have to grin and bear it and keep paying it. But we do have money in the bank that offsets that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else any concerns or questions? No, I think Anton, you've had a light touch tonight. And it's a very good report, by the way.
Thank you.
Very well put.
That's my colleague Michelle who writes it. So
thank you, Michelle. Then
I'll pass that on to her.
Thank you very much. I'll propose that we accept this report. We're looking for a second now.
I'll
second it, John.
Right.
Okay, we go to the vote. If you can indicate for, against, or abstention. Councillor Brackstone?
For.
Councillor Cousins?
For.
Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor King?
Good report. Yes, for.
Councillor Middleton?
For.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Councillor Rain?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Raper?
For.
Councillor Wass?
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We've accepted it.
Thank you.
Next item is Head of Corporate Governance, Customer Complaints, Q2. Agenda item 9 on page 71.
It's myself, Chair, Will, who's
Right,
presenting
Will.
this. Thank you and good evening. So, at the meeting of the committee on the 1st of October, we presented an annual report, and so this report brings members up to speed with the position up to the end of September, so quarters 1 and 2 of the financial year. So in terms of the customer complaints that we've received, we have seen a reduction in the number of complaints and also in the response times. So they've gone down from, it was just over 9 days last year as an average response time, and in terms of this this period last year, and to date we've got a response time of 6.79 days, so an improvement in that respect. And I have included in appendix 2 of the report some lessons learned, so you can see the service areas where we've had complaints and where there've been, as I say, some lessons learned and actions taken in relation to the complaints that we've received. On the compliments, this is something that the committee have noted before in terms of wanting to see some of the compliments. And we have seen over the course of the quarters 1 and 2 quite an improvement in the number of compliments. And I would put that down to the COVID response. So we've seen, particularly in relation to the business grants and very much in the street scene team with the continuation of the collections for waste and recycling, an improvement in the number of compliments. And I've included some examples. Section 6.11 of the covering report to give you an idea of some of the compliments we've received. Just to add that we are reviewing the procedure around the compliments, complaints and feedback, and in one of the appendices I've included a table to show some of the response times for the revised procedure, so you can see those as well. But in terms of, this is kind of a general update, very much like the last report, to bring members up to speed with where we are at the end of September. So happy to take any questions anyone's got.
Thank you, Will. Any member got a question for Will? I can't think of anything. It's extremely good report in many respects, especially when we see that people are appreciating the efforts that our staff have gone to. At this point, I think we ought to acknowledge that this is our staff that's getting these compliments for doing their everyday doing, what is that normal to them. And it's nice that they're getting the pats on the back that this terrible disease has caused them to work extra hard. And boy, have they been working extra hard and still are. And I think we owe a debt of gratitude to all our staff for their hard work over this past period of time where this terrible disease has been knocking people left, right and centre and continuing to do so.
Chair, Councillor
Anybody
Oxley
else?
would like to speak.
Councillor Oxley, please. Thank you. I can't see you on my screen.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with exactly entirely what you just said. I think the other thing I just want to comment on is that there's real evidence here, and thank you, Will. We are learning the way we report things, and we're changing the way we report things, and we're demonstrating that we're learning from what's coming into us, and that is fantastic. So thank you.
I'd second that as well. Anybody else? And I'll propose that we accept this report. No seconder.
I'll second that, John.
Thank you. I'll go through the roll then, please.
Absolutely. Councillor Braxton?
For.
Councillor Cousins?
For.
Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor King?
For.
Councillor Middleton?
For.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Councillor Rain?
For.
Councillor Raper?
For.
Councillor Wass?
For. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We've accepted it. Decision from other committees to follow. I haven't had one to follow unless it's on the email, and I can't access my email being on the iPad. Can you help me out on that one, Will?
Chair, these are in relation to the minutes from the draft minutes, as it were, from the Policy and Resources Committee last week.
Right.
So obviously we've dealt with part of it under urgent business, but I know we had 3 observers who were there in their capacity as ONS observers, if they had anything to say, and then the minutes are just to note.
Right. Any of the observers, I was observing the only one that was, well, there wasn't anything really that I thought worthy of bringing. Others might disagree with that, but I found it a fascinating meeting with plenty, a myriad of information coming through. Any other members got any comments to pass on this at the moment? Open floor on this. Otherwise, I'll move that we accept it. I'll look for a seconder now then.
John.
Thank you. Can we go through the roll then, please?
We can, Chair. Councillor Braxton?
Abstain.
Councillor Cousins?
For.
Councillor Garbutt-Moore?
For.
Councillor King?
For.
Councillor Middleton?
Abstain.
Councillor Oxley?
For.
Councillor Rain?
Abstain.
Councillor Raper?
For.
Councillor Wass?
Abstain.
That's 5 votes for, Chair, and 4 abstentions.
Thank you very much. I think that brings us to the end of our deliberation this evening, ladies and gentlemen. It does. I've got nothing else on my list. The next meeting for us is the Audit Committee meeting on the 21st of January.
Is now exiting.
So it leaves me to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year.
Yeah,
stay safe.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Thanks for the staff.
Good night.
Good night.
Yes, good night. I'm going to get it off, John. I'm going to get you off, John.